you, big brother.
If they want to get you, they'll get you. The NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. They're collecting your communications.
All right, guys, we're here. Another Thought Crime Thursday is upon us. What's up, gang?
What's up? What's up?
What's up, Jack?
Crimes are flitting through my mind all the time.
All right, we got Russ, we got Andrew, we got Blake, we got Poso here. I've got my Philadelphia background, also with my Wawa 250 shirt. Look at this. We got Philly Skyline, we got Wawa 250. Just picked this up. It's going to be a hot commodity. I'm going to pass this on to my children at one point when
you know what's
they
interesting?
steal it from me, probably a week from now.
You know what's interesting, Jack, is that we've got the Buc-ee's all this Europeans coming over, discovering Buc-ee's. We've got Bass Pro Shops.
Right.
I have seen zero foreign love for Wawa. What's that about?
Are they playing any games in Philadelphia?
They did, actually. They just had a game in Philadelphia last week. What was it? I think it was like Brazil or something. And I think it's because there weren't any European teams that were playing in Philadelphia, though. So Freddie came across Pennsylvania, but he was like going across the northern tier to get to New York. So he wasn't anywhere in like what I refer to as the Wawa Republic, if you will, which begins in North Jersey and then goes all the way down to about Richmond, although Philadelphia is, of course, the capital.
Yeah, I think in general, even if the Europeans haven't discovered Wawa, the fact that you've got your 250 Wawa shirt, it does get me thinking about the share of American patriotic pride that is being generated by high quality gas stations at this point, because Buc-ee's is a thing that we're genuinely celebrating and bragging about as Europeans encounter it. And I know a lot of people were getting a kick. The Japanese got here and they went to 7-Eleven in America and they were thinking, oh, it's so amazing to have this authentic product of Japan here in America, the 7-Eleven. And
then we've got the cult following of like Kirkland, the Costco brand.
Oh, are they discovering Kirkland now?
Which is just like,
yeah, Kirkland is the whole thing now.
Yeah, which is also really funny.
Is that one of those things where we just think of Costco as normal, decent products, and then there's probably Europeans or Chinese people who get Kirkland exported to their country and they charge it at a 3 times markup?
By the way,
they used to do that with Pabst Blue Ribbon.
I literally just pulled this up to fact check, and I did find a TikTok that loves the Wawa. I just found it.
Oh, there you go.
You got one,
them.
Jack.
You got one.
Although that's got decent engagement, admittedly.
No, it does. It does. Well, and this of course because we're not really big on the dude. This one on TikTok, it's 500,000 views.
Yeah, no, it's not bad.
They love the TikTok. They
wait, hold on. The whole point of this is that you get Philly cheesesteak at a Wawa. Do you agree with? I mean, I don't know. Do you agree with that, Jack?
Yeah. So that's kind of like, look, I appreciate
like
it, but here, so this is a French guy who went, I guess, to Philadelphia, who said they were recommended. He got a little mixed up. All right. He's French. We're not going to hold it to him. But he said that he wanted the cheesesteak, and then someone had mentioned Wawa, so he got mixed up and thought that he meant that he should get a cheesesteak at Wawa, which, I mean, guys, like let's be serious.
Yeah,
you could do a whole lot better.
Fine.
That's
No
like
one
getting,
at
that's
that
like
point-
getting sushi at a gas station.
At that point, don't even interrupt
Yeah, it
them.
kind of
Just
is.
let him
It's
believe
like-
he got the famous sandwich. He can tell his
He seemed
kids,
happy.
I was at the World Cup.
He seemed very happy.
Yeah, you know what?
I got the Wawa cheesesteak. And also,
Yeah,
living the dream.
He seemed.
this is
he
going to
seemed
be a
quite happy
controversial
about
take
it.
of mine. Cheesesteaks are a basic enough sandwich. I don't think it matters too much where you get one.
Dude, I got actually no. I actually agree that I think like for a lot of like the overweight foodies out there, they do this whole like, oh, you've got to go to the one in North Philly that's in like a hole in the wall that's served out of a bucket, but that's the perfect one. And they're like, no, that's the red bucket. You have to go to South Philly for the one out of the blue bucket. And you're like, if you're getting an authentic Philly cheesesteak anywhere in the city or like South Jersey, or there's a lot of Philly crossover, you're going to be fine. You're going to be absolutely fine. They're all good. What you don't want to get is something where people call it a Philly cheesesteak and it's not. It's just very obviously not a Philly cheesesteak, where they like layer like I've seen people come, say that they're going to give me a Philly cheesesteak, and I get something that has like roast beef on it, and I'm like, what is this? Like, this is not a cheesesteak in any way, shape, or form. So it's like, as long as you actually understand what you're supposed to be making, you're fine.
I think this is a total out of left field, but it's a thought crime that just came to me because you said that. I have a real thought crime for you that is very culinary. When it comes to roast beef, I prefer fast food roast beef, like Arby's style roast beef, over what you'd likely get at a nice restaurant with like the thicker pieces of beef. Like, I actually really like the weird thin slices of beef that are standard in fast food sandwiches. So much so that when I was most recently in South Dakota for a blast from the past, I went to the Hardee's that I went to as a kid and I got one of them. And it was delicious.
Hey, you know what? There you go.
It's way better than restaurant roast beef.
Jack, I have a bigger question for the group here. It's off the topic list, but say Mexico won the World Cup. Do you think that they would riot and burn down our cities in celebration?
You mean the Mexicans that live here illegally?
And legally. The Moroccans in the Netherlands, I think some of them are like third generation. And they're still rioting. They're still burning down that country.
All of California would be engulfed.
I think they would probably
shall not
celebrate.
win the
I don't
World
think
Cup.
they'd riot. I don't think. Have they done that? Do Mexicans really like riot, or Hispanic areas riot over sports stuff? This isn't New York. They're not animals.
I mean, well,
I don't know. I think they'll be fine. It will be interesting. I think Mexico is underrated here because this game that they're playing today, and if they win it, their next one, they're both played in Mexico City, and Mexico City's higher up than Denver. It's like 7,500 feet in the air. That is, you have like 1/3 less oxygen in every breath than you would normally. I just think a lot of these players, they're going to go to Mexico City and they're going to be super tired, and then Mexico will slip one goal past them and get the win.
It's Ecuador that's playing against Mexico.
True.
So
it's about this. Almost all, or a lot of the Ecuador players, over half of them, are from one small part of Ecuador that only has 3% of the people. So it'd be like if all of America's players came from like Alabama or something.
LA.
And because it's the only part of Ecuador that has like a high black population. So they're all really athletic there, but they're not from the highlands. So, and they play in Europe. So other than when they play national team games in Quito, they're not actually playing at a high altitude the way Mexico is.
Quito.
I'm trying to think of something. Wasn't there another, like, some kind of sport where it's like all the Olympians that have won are from like a certain, one square of Europe or something like that? Do you remember? You know what I'm talking about at all?
I'm not sure about that. I do know that the Kenyan runners who are really good. Kenya has great long distance runners, but it's even more specific than that. It's from like one tribe in one small part of Kenya, and they're just all god tier runners.
Where I'm being assaulted. I'm getting assaulted by a Phillies fan here. Hey, Jack,
Phillies riot. There's a Phillies riot going on. They're going to burn the city down.
We got an Eagles fan over here too.
Oh,
we got an Eagles fan over here too.
Another extra.
All right. Well, guys, if I can, I know this is on our subject list, and these guys were not planning to be here today, but they got in. I have a question. What did you guys? We watched the Toy Story and He-Man this weekend, right? Right. And which movie did you guys like better?
He-Man.
Why?
Because it's better. Because it's man style.
Because it's man style?
Yes.
And what does He-Man say?
Style.
I have the power.
Oh, I have the power. And AJ, are you grabbing stuff that's like swords and saying I have the power?
Yes.
Yes, you like that?
Yes.
Like sticks or anything?
Yes.
All right, get out of here.
Okay.
Thank you. Good work, guys.
He's got the power.
Oh, I get out too? Oh, all right. I will soon.
Wait, the question though is, Jack, does Europe have enough power to run its AC?
Oh. Ooh, all right. Well, I don't know if you wanted to switch
that
to
was
the,
quite the pivot. That was the most aggressive pivot I have ever heard Andrew pull off.
See, I was going to jump ahead.
I'm not even mad at myself. I'm just impressed.
But if you want to go back to the AC thing, we can do that as well. Because I want to know, guys. I mean,
whatever you want.
We're getting hit with a heat wave. I don't know. Russ, I feel like we should hit the He-Man thing because they just said it.
Yeah, let's hit the.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we'll have to do He-Man first.
Right.
We'll get to the AC question.
He just said it. So
I respect the pivot. That was an all-timer pivot.
It was a good try.
That was worthy of the power of Grayskull.
So we'll get there. We will get there.
Did I say that right? I never watched He-Man as a kid. That full confession. I think this is one of those things where tiny differences in age make a huge difference.
True.
So Jack, I know that you're a couple years older than me, and I guess this must mean you're a vastly bigger He-Man fan than I am. I never saw He-Man on anything.
I would honestly say, like, you're right on the age question. That being said, though, I was familiar with the He-Man toys as a kid. I did not really watch the He-Man show as a kid.
Fair
I was quite familiar with the toys.
I actually think you have to be older than Jack and I to have appreciated He-Man,
it's
like the cartoons. So like
Gen X was the core. The core He-Man was Gen X, and I am not Gen X.
Yeah, my brother's like 5 years older than me, and he watched He-Man. So that's kind of like if you're.
I don't even think I saw the toys.
But I had the toys. I had the toys.
I never saw the toys either.
But I think they were like leftover toys.
I think the way I heard of He-Man was I went through that phase as a kid where I read Dave Barry books, like Dave Barry humor books, and he has columns he wrote about his son playing with He-Man toys and explaining this is He-Man, this is Men-at-Arms, this is these other guys.
Funny enough,
and I remember reading that and not being sure if this was real or just something Dave Barry was making up.
Actually, funny enough, is Tom Wolfe also brings up He-Man a lot in Bonfire of the Vanities.
I don't remember
referring
that.
to himself as it's because the phrase "Master of the Universe" and it's like the main character the guy who's like a bond trader. He's like, I'm a master of the universe, like He-Man, like my kids' toys. I'm a master of the universe.
That's literally what it actually comes from.
That's funny.
That's what Masters of the Universe comes from. Yes, it's a He-Man reference, and he says something about like kids.
We should play some of the clips because I feel like if you're in the audience and you have no idea what He-Man is.
Yeah, let's. Clip 6 is probably a good place to start.
There's a new movie.
All right.
Oh no, there's the old one. Okay.
And the Masters of the Universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia, defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull!" Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor.
Yeah, I'm looking. I literally dug out the PDF of Bonfire of the Vanities while we watched that clip, and it says the Masters of the Universe were a set of lurid, rapacious plastic dolls that Sherman McCoy's otherwise perfect daughter liked to play with. They looked like Norse gods who lifted weights, and they had names such as Dracon, Ahor, Manglered, and Blue Tongue. They were unusually vulgar, even for plastic toys. And yet one day, in a fit of euphoria, he had picked up the telephone and taken an order for 0 coupon bonds that had brought him a $50,000 commission, and just like that, the phrase bubbled into his head, I am a master of the universe.
Yeah, and so like McCoy is saying that like throughout the novel.
Yeah, it does. But I just love that description of the toys. Are those actually even He-Man characters? Dracon, Blue Tongue, are those?
I think no. I think that might be like you know, and this is like classic Tom Wolfe. That might be like what McCoy's daughter called them, but that's not what they're actually called.
Apparently, blue tongue is a viral disease that ruminant species can get. Uh-oh. I don't think they want to make a doll out of that one.
So that was the original He-Man. All right, that was the original He-Man. Everybody, you know, you're probably more familiar with that. And then there's the new movie, which just came out like a week or two ago. I'm going to try to get this back on track here. And do we want to play that trailer as well?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So that was the 1980s show, and this is the new
1983
film, which just dropped. 1983, or just dropped a month ago, give or take.
I know most of you don't remember me, but I know all of you. Even though I was stuck light years away on Earth,
Lotus Battle Cat replaces the lion.
I never stopped trying to get back home.
Everything changed since you left.
It's all gone. Skeletor took my family. And he destroyed our world.
Probably some of the better CGI.
It's all my fault. I know how it feels to fail. Take the sword. And when you fall, that's your chance to stand tall.
This is my home. I'm gonna fight for it. But I can't do it without you.
Somebody wants to brawl.
I need every man, woman, or whatever that is.
The movie.
You may have the power. But you're too scared to use it.
Trust me. I know how to use it.
You tell everyone that you're from another planet. It just makes you sound a little very crazy.
Okay, Jack, I'm gonna say a few things, being brutally honest here. First of all, I saw that trailer in theaters a few months ago, and it is the first time I ever saw a movie and immediately Googled on my phone. Yes, I pulled out my phone and Googled during the previews. Did they make this movie using AI? Because it looks very AI-y.
The trailers did not do this movie any help. Like,
also, it's a little weird because it seems like they're saying this is the rise of He-Man, so it's his origin story. But it seems like
it's like it's like a prequel, it's an origin story, like a reboot.
But at the start, he's already he's like ex He-Man. He has amnesia, and he's working as an accountant in New York or something.
He gets teleported from Grayskull to Earth, and then he grows up on Earth.
What's the thought
trying
crime
to figure
here?
out where the
So here's the thought crime. This is what I wanted to bring up as the thought crime. And I've written, and I'm not even going to like get into reviewing like whether it's a good movie or like the movie's got issues. Like I'm not even going to say that it's like the perfect movie or something. Music is actually really cool. If you hear that guitar, the reason that it actually sounds like Queen is because it's literally Brian May. They got him back to do the soundtrack, and he has new original songs for the film. But the thought crime here is that my kids loved this thing. You saw them just running in and talking about it. They've been obsessed with it ever since they watched it, especially the little one. And what struck me was this is a film, and more specifically the character of He-Man, where it's a depiction of masculinity in such a way that you just don't find anywhere else in the mainstream of entertainment, in children's entertainment. You don't find anything anywhere where you've just got a big muscle-bound guy who, in a very positive way, is just wailing on bad guys. And there's something about that where you just put a sword in a young boy's hand and have him hold it up and say, I have the power, that actually speaks to something that's very, very positive for young kids. And so at first I wasn't super into it, but then when I saw the reaction that they had to it, it made me appreciate it more, because I was kind of thinking about it in contrast of all the other things that are out there in media today, that this is something for young boys that they could look to and say, you know what? I want to be a hero just like He-Man. I can be just like He-Man. And look, if you're, someone who's got a young girl right now, there's everything. Everything is all female coded or feminine coded, whereas He-Man is like the one thing where it's just like, yeah, I'm a dude who's got the power of the cosmos, the power of the sword, and you know what? I'm going to use it. And by the way, the fact that it's a white guy doing that, they didn't they did race swap Man-at-Arms, but they did not, but it's Idris Elba, and they did not gender swap or race swap or do any of that nonsense. It's something where I said, you know what? This is actually good for young boys to see, and that we should take them to see it. And Blake, if you wanted to tie this in, there's something in the psychology of specifically the toys of the series, which I'm sure they're going to try to sell a lot of toys to kids like mine, that actually is at play here.
Yeah, so that's what we were thinking of linking it to here, because He-Man infamously was originally created to basically sell toys. In fact, I think the toys existed, and then they made the show, and then now the show, it all loops around. But it turned into a thing that I guess is pretty old, but I only learned of it yesterday. And it's we were debating what to call this, the Batman to Barbie pipeline, the Batman shopping idea. But it's literally how kids engage with toys, which is pretty funny, because I was reading that
Batman
excerpt
versus Barbie. Yeah, it's like reading two separate psychologies.
Yeah. Well, it's reading the excerpt here from the that book where it's his daughter playing with the toys, and we should wonder, how is she playing with the toys? So it's this take that someone had. Let me bring it up here. Just a
classic
second.
green text. Classic 4chan green text, by the way.
Yes. So what happens is, this is all, someone else brought it up, but it's the Batman shopping idea.
I can't believe
so
you never saw this before, by the way.
Yeah. So here's what someone alleged on 4chan ages ago. Lego did a study when they created the Lego Friends line for girls, where they discovered that when a boy plays with a toy of a character, it's totally different from how it is with a girl. The boy tries to become the character. The girl wants the character to become her. So the example he gives, you give a boy a Batman toy. He wants to know, what is Batman's origin? What is Batman's idea? How does Batman act and behave? And he'll play with Batman doing Batman things. So he'll be motivated. I have to get revenge for my parents, but I can't kill anybody because Batman's not allowed to do that. He's going to talk like this all the time. All of that. The girl, on the other hand, is going to take Batman, and she's going to make Batman do girl stuff. Batman will go shopping. He will bake cookies. He will go to the prom. He'll go to the Bat prom. And there's exceptions, he says, but the data says this is what's going on there. And then this leads into, this is arguably the reason that Star Wars and so many other things have gone downhill after Kathleen Kennedy and similar people have taken over, because when they're handed a property, they think, how can I make this property more like me?
True.
As opposed to, how do I steward this property in a way that makes sense with it? So does Star Wars do stuff that makes sense in Star Wars terms, or are they just turning Star Wars into Rey has to go to the prom?
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. It's actually kind of funny.
I can vouch for this, by the way. My children, my son specifically, with Star Wars, ever since I took him to go see Mandalorian, which Jack is still upset at me about, but like, he's obsessed with Mando now. He's got the Mandalorian toys.
We should hold ourselves to the same standard.
I didn't actually, call anybody to do anything, so there's that. But
somebody isn't watching the episodes he's on.
I digress. No. I saw the chat. I knew exactly, but I just, listen, my son wanted to go. I had a great time with him. Anyways, he is doing all the Mando things. He's not making Mando do whatever he thinks he should do. It just seems like he's and the other part that really resonates here is where you learn everything about him. He knows like Mando facts, like about the character, about his weapons that are pretty obscure, and he's kind of done that all on his own. Like I haven't been leading him down any path or anything. So I can say lived experience totally matches this description.
So actually,
and that's exactly what my boys are doing. Just real quick with He-Man, they're doing the exact same thing. It's like, okay, who is mom and dad? Okay, got it. And what's the deal with the cat? The tiger changes to Battle Cat when he has the power. Got it. Okay, cool. And they want to learn all those things about him. But then it's also that I think the deeper thing though that we're talking about here is like, so. It's like a role playing in the sense that, hey, I can be He-Man. I can be whatever, Star Wars character you just made up. I can be Batman in this situation. And it's sort of like giving that actual empowerment. Whereas with Lego, when they did, because Blake, in the thing you read, they talked about the Lego Friends line. In the Lego Friends line, this is very similar to Barbie, where it's like they make personalized characters that you can go in and then customize, which is totally separate from like every other Lego set that's ever been made before. And this was the psychology that allowed Lego to finally open up the female market, to market to young girls. That that they found that girls wanted that kind of toy more, whereas boys wanted to do role playing. And so rather than we've all seen this trope with like the girls will have like every Toy Story they talk about it, where like the girl will have the action toys go to like a tea party, right? That's because that's what girls do. Whereas boys want to fight and play with the toys and view themselves as the toys. There was actually that cool series, The Toys That Make Us. Do you guys ever see that on Netflix?
No, I haven't.
Or I think it was YouTube maybe, that talks about how the toys were made. And one piece, I wrote this up for Human Events, that when the toys were first made, to Blake's point, that they just let kids play with the toys. And some of the boys were going back and forth saying, I have the power. No, I have the power back. And that's where they got the line from, was just
That's
actual
amazing.
kids
That's
playing
cool.
in like a focus group. And one of the things that they dug through and realized was that when you're a young boy like that, you're constantly surrounded in areas where women have like total authority, right? You're at home and mom's the boss, for most of the day. You go to school, and the teaching staff is mostly female. And so they feel powerless. But now when I have this, I get to be He-Man, and He-Man has all of the power. So it was a repudiation of the Longhouse back then, whereas like today, this system has only gotten worse. The situation has only gotten worse because the Longhouse of the female-run, consensus-driven world is like literally everywhere you go. And and we might disagree on this, but I actually took the first part of the movie as actually sort of showing that, because in the film, when it starts out, that's kind of the joke, is that He-Man actually works in an HR department, and he has this like feminist girl boss director, and he gets fired. It doesn't go very well.
So speaking of how girls play with toys, I think there's kind of funny old proof of this, which is clearly based on probably what an early Pixar animator's own kids were doing. But the original Toy Story, back before there was 4 and 5 and all these other, and the gay Buzz Lightyear movie, we had the original Toy Story, which is amazing. And you may remember there's a scene where Buzz ends up in the hands of Sid's little sister, and Woody goes to rescue him. And let's show how they portrayed her playing with them. Let's do clip 16.
Buzz, hey, Buzz, are you okay?
Gone!
I called it!
It's all gone. All of it's gone. Bye-bye. Who's here?
What happened to you?
One minute you're defending the whole galaxy, and suddenly you find yourself sucking down Darjeeling with
Marie Antoinette and her little sister. I think you've had enough tea for today. Let's get you out of here, Buzz.
Don't you get it? You see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit. Snap out of it, Buzz.
I'm sorry. You're right. I am just a little depressed. That's all. I can get through this.
Oh, I'm a sham! Look at me. I can't even fly out of a window. But the hat looked good. Tell me the hat looked good. The apron is a bit much.
Out the window, Buzz! You're a genius! Come on, this way!
Years of academy training waste.
Oh, I love the original Toy Story.
I love
I am Mrs. Nesbit. Tell me the hat looks good.
Yeah, that's exactly the point, right? That's the point, that like the little girl made Buzz Lightyear, who's a, you know, an action spaceman, secret agent kind of character, into
She put him in the longhouse. She put him in the longhouse. No, wait. There's a natural, the counterpoint here though that I'm saying. So, okay, girls will do this with boy toys. Do you see the opposite? Like, will boys, if put into this situation, like where they only have Barbies to interact with, will they play house, or will they make her the girlfriend of Batman? I don't. Do your boys ever play with girl-coded toys in any capacity, Jack?
No. No.
See, I feel that might be the issue.
There have been times where they've gone over, like Tanya will have girlfriends or something who have daughters, and if we're like arrange a play date, like they will just march right past the girl toys and pick up like a ball or something else. Like it's like they don't even exist.
Yeah, which is good, but it does strike me, if we're going to engage with the thought crime here, there might be an issue there. If they're saying boys will get into the headspace of the toy, well, yeah, if the toy is awesome, but if the toy is domestic.
So my parents actually took it a step further and used essentially this thought process as why growing up we weren't allowed to watch Star Wars, we weren't allowed to watch Batman or Superman, which is hilarious because I'm a giant nerd now. We would watch Animal Planet, Discovery Channel, the History Channel, but then there was this animated show called Rescue Heroes, which is essentially they just made police officers, firemen, lifeguards, doctors, like all these heroes. And so the whole show is literally just them like, oh, we have a wildfire, we have to go save the people. And literally you had like essentially a He-Man style toys, but it was Billy Blazes the fireman, and he had like a mustache and everything.
And would they like all team up with each other, so the paramedic just shows up to help with the fire?
It was literally like Avengers or Justice League, but like for like first responders.
Did they have one guy who had like a really niche skill? Like they'd have the Coast Guard guy who's good at water, just tagging along in the desert rescue or something?
The Coast Guard guy actually had a pet dolphin that helped him on rescue.
That's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then literally you had these toys where you would have like a ship, or there was like a big aircraft carrier. It was literally the Avengers and Justice League, but for first responders.
I feel like the real fantasy here is various public safety departments envisioning what they would do with an unlimited budget, like have a giant aircraft carrier for water rescues. Angelo, I'm glad we have dads weighing in. Angelo does point out that boys do exactly one thing if they get their hands on a Barbie doll. I think saying that, you can imagine it's dredging up childhood memories of myself at this point.
Yeah, we all know what that is.
Yep.
Yeah, don't give Barbies to your boys. It'll lead to weird stuff.
Don't give Barbies to your boys. And yeah, positive depictions of masculinity are good for young boys. And I think that we should support those. And that's why I'm saying just, put a sword in your young kid's hand. I mean, if you're a boy, or if you have boys or, grandsons, that you'll see that young boys will automatically, they be walking down the street and they pick up a stick, and suddenly that stick turns into a sword and they're on an adventure. And teach them that they have the power. And this is key. Do not ever let anyone tell them they don't.
Exactly. I'd say even a bigger picture thing there, a thing that bothers me, you'll have these adults who will say, this is a great kid's show because it engages with more nuance or whatever. We made a character and their parents are divorced and they have a messed up home life. And I'm really wondering if that should be basically considered very bad behavior for anyone who's under the age of 11 or 12 or something. Because I feel like we actually benefit if you give kids zero irony, be an awesome superhero, and they're on a team of other awesome superheroes who do heroic good stuff, and they beat the bad guys. You don't want all these weird moral layers and ambiguities going on, because then they'll just be messed up in the head, and you want them to be superheroes.
Yeah, and by the way, I should also add, and since I appreciate you guys indulging this topic, because I do think it's important for parenting. It's not just about He-Man, but where did the original He-Man kind of fall off? Like, why was something that was so popular that controlled like the entire kid space, kiddom, until the late '80s? And I argue that it was when they introduced He-Man's sister, She-Ra, and they went all in on She-Ra, and She-Ra became the twin sister of He-Man. And then suddenly it wasn't just he has the power, it's that she has the power too. And were there some girls that brought it? I'm sure. But, what did it do? I think it turned off a lot of the boys, and it was something that kind of like made it so that the franchise just did not continue through the 90s and never really took off again in the way that it had before. And I think it was because they messed up the psychology.
The deep programming of feminism in our culture is something that's worth thinking about and studying. I recently became aware of the fact that, when the original suffragettes were kind of pushing their propaganda, guess who their main opponent was? It was actually women. So they would do these votes across the country, and in Massachusetts, for example, they did some vote on women's suffrage, and it was like 94-6. The women were against it. So it's very interesting when you think about this was like a 150-year project, maybe even longer, really, back to the 1840s. It has been so long in the making, so deeply ingrained in the psyche of the culture that you kind of can't really, it's hard to understand for each person where the programming begins and ends. So we've all been totally propagandized about this stuff. And it is a weird phenomena when it comes to the male psyche. And I totally agree with you on this, Jack. Men, if you celebrate them and push them and champion them, they will go from boys to men. They will become fully formed human adults with strength, power, and authority. If you don't, if women swarm, they will shrink back. I don't know if you want to call that is a weakness of the sex. I don't know, but there is a thing that if you cut off a man's development early, he will not fully form. He will become a weak man. He will become a shrinking violet. He will do all the things that we don't want men to do. But if you champion him and he gets fully formed, he's unstoppable. And so you see this in the workplace. One of the things that I keep thinking about, and Blake was the one who actually brought this to my attention, was the Helen Andrews piece, where she's talking about the Great Awakening, that the females are starting to overpopulate in corporate spaces. They're becoming the majority in corporate spaces. I think we can't underestimate how disastrous this can be, because there is something about men. You see this at the university now. It's 62% of degrees go to women now at this point, which is obscene. When men used to dominate, it used to be like 80-20. It's like invading locusts. I mean, no disrespect to the women, but you got to champion men or they will shrink back. But once they become fully formed, once they become powerful, they'll become the protectors of your civilization. So I totally agree. Jack, we need to encourage young men to watch He-Man. I think it's great. It's great programming. It's great for the development of young boys' minds. But there is something about women. They'll just keep coming. They'll just keep coming, and men will shrink back. And maybe it is a weakness of the male sex, but you got to promote them. You got to champion them.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think that's all great. I think the biggest picture thing of all is it illustrates the importance of dudes specifically really need implicitly all male spaces. Mm-hmm. And some of that is actual organizations. I think the Boy Scouts clearly went into a tailspin when they started letting girls in. I don't think that's surprising. But it's even with things, it's like you said with the He-Man thing. Guys are going to want a thing that is just the guy thing. I think it's really messed with the military that we've let women into it. I think in an existential way, it's just guys. This probably goes back to the steppe when the original Proto-Indo-Europeans were expanding with their horse warrior legions to conquer the entirety of Europe and India and the Middle East and all of that. But they got to have their group of dudes. You got to have a dudes rock club.
This is why I think it's diabolical that women always want to invade male spaces. It's completely diabolical because we so fundamentally need those spaces. We need those shows. We need those programmings. We need those experiences as young people. And so they all get attacked.
That's what they're doing, though.
Every single
it's
one
all
gets
biological there. Women have the biological need to push against this, and they are testing if we have the resolve to say no. And deep down, I think they want us to say no. But are we going to be strong enough to do it?
Yeah.
Are we going to be strong enough to say no?
Yes,
By the way, we're not going to greenlight the She-Ra movie. Women are crying out. Women are crying out across America. Don't make a She-Ra movie. Don't let it happen. But they're saying the opposite. And we have to be strong enough to know what they really want.
Remember when they did that Ghostbusters with all women?
Oh, that was terrible.
Yeah, see, they didn't actually want to make chick
Terrible.
Ghostbusters. They were saying, I want to make chick Ghostbusters, crying out for a man to say, no, that's not necessary.
Kind of like the new Supergirl movie, which we haven't even talked about, but just, again, crashed and burned.
We're not even going to dignify that with an extended discussion.
I will say, having watched both, I'm glad that He-Man is out there, that they can go, that there is an opportunity to go.
It's already been out for like a month.
I don't know.
How did it do, Jack?
It didn't do great,
He-Man did not do well. No, He-Man did not do well, and
it definitely did better than Supergirl, to be fair.
It did better than Supergirl, but it did not do that well, and I would argue that's because they didn't lean into this type of marketing and doing it this way, saying, hey, this is a movie for boys, and it's unapologetically a movie for boys. Because in the marketing, they kind of played up, some of these other aspects, and I think that people maybe got the wrong take on it, or they saw him sitting at a desk with pronouns and they didn't think that it was like a satire. It was making fun of the pronouns.
The first hour is pretty female coded.
And they do this, a thing that I didn't care for looking at that trailer. They throw in they throw the little I know how to use it joke and a few similar things. Like they dilute what could be a boy adventure with a handful of bits of, call it Joss Whedon-esque humor. To make it flippant and light, and this is totally, it appeals to millennials.
Look at this.
I think it's a big misfire. It reminds me of when they made the Power Rangers movie about a decade ago, and I saw it, and I saw it because I was a huge Power Rangers nut as a kid, and I thought the way to do that movie would have been you go 10 out of 10. It's cartoonish. Everyone's making weird Japanese hand gestures as they talk, just like in the show. And they're all super earnest. All the kids are do-gooders, just like they are in the show. And you just give it a bigger budget, and it'd be really entertaining. And instead they did that, where they made it, the kids they're now like bad boys and girls. They meet in detention. And one of them, she feels she's like disgraced because she shared, I think, nude photos of a friend, to hurt her, and then that friend killed herself or something. They added all this darkness, and I'm like, this is a Power Rangers
that
movie.
was in Power Rangers?
Yeah, they had this in Power Rangers, and it just totally messed up.
Well, I mean, we did go through a phase of it was the same time. It was the same time that we had that
revenge porn in Power Rangers.
Four stick.
Yeah,
with Josh Trank, where it was like every superhero movie
darker and edgier. It was so bad. It was
Chris Nolan started a lot of that.
Yeah, we need to. We have too much irony in our society. We need to take the irony out and tell kids they should be awesome because awesome people rock.
Yeah, we need corny is okay.
Yeah,
it's okay to be corny.
It reminds me of what my pastor used to say. He would just because we always present those he was a drug dealer and he went to prison and now he gave his life to Jesus, and he's like, I want to make a church. I want to support and preach to a church that has a lot of boring testimonies. We don't need everybody to be their life story to be, something you could turn into a novel. Okay. So let's just keep it straight. Here's what's interesting though, Blake, you were right about this. Demographic failure is what they say. Audience data from Variety revealed the movie heavily relied on nostalgia, attracting an audience that was 66% male. Not a bad thing, actually. But here's the bad thing. And 40% over the age of 45. It completely failed to capture younger crowds, with children under 12 making up only 4% of the audience. So something to Jack's point that could have been so good for young people didn't get to any young people. But anyways, what's interesting
over 45, they're just dragging it. Hey,
I mean, what is this? Wasn't it the first trailer? They kept bouncing between the 1983 He-Man and the new, they kept kind of interspersing the scenes. So it was very much, they were going after the nostalgia.
But get this, MGM Studios may still greenlight a sequel because it is considered a core IP asset and can drive Prime Video streaming subscriptions and long-term ecosystem
MGM's
engagement.
owned by Amazon.
So
I could see this movie becoming a streaming hit. I can absolutely see this movie becoming a streaming hit, because especially if you have the ability to forward and rewind, you can forward through the first hour of this film and kids will just literally just enjoy the action part.
Yeah, my 5-year-old, to your point, he'll be like, Daddy, I don't want to watch the talking parts.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the biggest thing is like that first.
I just want to watch the He-Man parts.
That first hour is very like it's two different
it
movies for sure.
Yeah, and Amazon does own
if they
MGM.
turn it into a stream.
Yeah.
So Amazon owns MGM. So something to be said, and obviously Disney has been, Andrew, this is more your lane of country, but something I know Disney has been experimenting with this as well is sort of like the in the theater plus on streaming, either simultaneous release or you do like a couple weeks in theater and then you go to streaming, because if you have a streaming service that's owned by the studio, which used to be separate, so it used to be separate income streams, now it's the same company owns both. And so you can make your money back, or you can do other things that make your money back with the streaming service. So that overall piece there of the box office isn't always going to be the end all be all. And of course, Warner Brothers with DC, they just got bought out. They're tied up in the big Paramount merger, so it's not totally. It's not totally the ink is not dried on that. So I'm actually told by a guy who I know on the HBO side that they haven't fully vested, et cetera, or whatever. But we're just changing the marketplace is basically what I'm saying.
There is a extra credit scene for He-Man that shows She-Ra, and it's heavily implied that it's gonna be Sydney Sweeney. So if they're gonna actually make money off of a movie, that would be the best way to do it, is to have her be She-Ra.
Why not?
Well, full circle.
Oh my gosh! All right, we need to. Speaking of, we need to move on to the next topic, which will, while our mind is in the gutter, we may as well keep it there, because we need to have a debate over ID verification, because Congress they're not lurching into action on birthright citizenship. They're not lurching into action on a lot of things, but Democrats and Republicans have finally come together to say that we should restrict the internet more. And we were actually having a big debate about this in our pre-show chat. So we thought, why not bring it on air?
The segue here, I guess, is that it's also about kids in a sense. True. Because there's an act that is going through Congress right now talking about, and when you look at the headline of it, you'd think this would be something that that everyone would support, that a lot of parents would support, about banning children from accessing pornography online. This is obviously something that we can all agree is good. This is something that Charlie talked about at length, including, I believe, on this program, and certainly, obviously, on the main show. And this is something that we all want to do. A lot of states have been adding these age verifications on at the state level for these websites. However, what this new bill is doing, and that just passed the House, I believe. And Blake, if you have the name of it, you could help me with that.
Yeah, it has just that lovely name, the Kids Internet and Digital Safety Act, which I've been around the block enough to just say, like, that's a name to run away from very quickly. Think of the children.
Is it the one being pushed by Meta?
Think of the children.
So that all sounds good.
You got to look who's sponsoring this stuff.
What are the problems with it? And let's see if it's pushed by Meta.
I don't know. I think the person they bother to name in this write-up about it is Senator Marsha Blackburn, who is a Republican, but I mean, it actually passed with bipartisan support. I just, if you look at the details, it says that companies have to have ways to limit addictive features in their apps for kids. They have to have policies in place to protect children from sexual exploitation. A Senate version, which would be even tougher, would add a duty of care on social media companies for young people, which that strikes me as something that would be really dangerous, because you're essentially creating this unlimited ambit for the government to come in and say, oh, this company, it wasn't following its duty of care towards children, we can blow it to smithereens. And all I can think of is that would be so easy to blow up Twitter, for example, X, and say, oh, you were allowing kids to get access to inappropriate content because it was racist, because it was pornographic, because it was any number of things. better blow it to smithereens. And that's why I'm always wary of any online safety bill, personally.
I don't understand why
Andrew,
why we don't just do
question.
something. I don't. But well, okay, go ahead.
So you were asking why is Meta behind it? It says Meta, just real quick, Meta is behind it because this puts the onus on the App Store and the Play Store and gives immunity to what they refer to as like the social media providers. So Facebook, et cetera, those guys would have protections, whereas they're saying the onus is now on it's at the phone level, basically.
Well, and that's a lot of that also has to be because like Facebook has already done a bunch to limit access to like Facebook and to Instagram with kids. Like you now have parental controls, you now have time controls.
Well, they're limiting liability. It's all about limiting liability, right? And I don't understand why. So I would love the option. So I sign up for internet at my house, right? I pay the internet service provider a monthly fee. I would love the option to opt in to any of these porn websites are disallowed in your house. And if you want to like go in the back end and like they get one of them wrong or something, but if somebody created like a database that, hey, these websites are unavailable at your house, I would opt into that for the sake of my family, for the sake of the internet, for the sake of the country. I think a lot of families would. That seems to be, if you're just dealing with porn, that's one thing. This thing is too broad sweeping. And I think it opens the Pandora's box of censorship and, potentially creating criminal liability or civil liability on stuff that should be the parents' domain. That's my first instinct here.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure there's like apps or VPNs that already do that, and you're absolutely right. There should be something that is done at the service provider level. The issue that I see with it, of course, though, from a privacy standpoint, though, and this is what I've seen a lot of pushback online, is people are saying, well, wait a minute, is this going to create some giant government database where the government can then see every single person who's associated with a certain username online? And I'm a huge support. So if that's true, I'm totally opposed to something like that, because I think, look, the MAGA movement would not exist without internet anonymity. We've all lived in a world where we have seen people canceled over anonymous writings that have later then been, attributed to them, or just, regular writings that have attributed to them that are totally normal opinions. Or as we keep meaning to cover it, but like the opinions of a normal person 30 years ago. And I think that we live in a time where we're totally controlled by the Longhouse. We're totally controlled by our institutions, are controlled by our enemies. We had debanking going on up until like 5 minutes ago of conservatives. And so, giving away internet anonymity would be a very, very foolish move to do on like the grand chessboard.
I don't think we are. I don't think you need anonymity all the time, though. Like I don't think that there is a reason to like, yeah, sure. Is it nice to sometimes be able to like not like be able to kind of cover yourself? But I don't think anonymity, especially on the internet, is anything more than a smokescreen, because everybody has an iPhone. Everybody uses their Face ID. Everybody, not just Russ, not just an iPhone.
But think about it. So listen, I think your heart's in the right place, but think about it in terms of politics, right? How many amazing conservative right-wing MAGA accounts existed simply because they were able to be anonymous and tell the truth online? If they would have, their identities would have been doxxed, then they would have lost their jobs. They would have been, we're in this unique position where we're able to be say and do and think what we want freely and not be fired for it, not be sent to the HR team. Where that's just not the case for a lot of people. They have to protect their identities. I remember when this debate became front and center. It was like Jordan Peterson versus Cerno is the way I remember it. Do you remember this, Poso, where Jordan Peterson was raging against the Anon accounts? And it was like,
Jordan
Peterson 1.0.
I'm going to hold him to this. Jordan Peterson 1.0 in 2017 went on Joe Rogan and was celebrating anons online and was saying that like these accounts are great, I love it, they're so good, they say things that no one else can say, you need to be anonymous in a time like this. Like the guy literally was like preaching Solzhenitsyn, who obviously lived in the Soviet Union, so at a place where the anonymity was necessary, or you could die. And then all of a sudden Jordan Peterson like totally flipped on that during like COVID.
Okay,
I will say what totally happens is there are people who are broadly in favor of anonymity, or they turn against it and crash out over it because anonymous people pick fights with them online and they can't handle it, which I think is kind of little lame and pathetic. I think there's also just 100%. I've seen people who think, oh, people who are anonymous basically shouldn't be allowed to have takes. I've seen that. I think Richard Hanani has argued that. And then there's also just, how to put it, like, some people just can't handle anonymous people existing. And I think it's actually a very important right that if you have the ability to say something, you should be able to say it anonymously, period. And another thing I would add is if you've been around online enough, you've seen sometimes journalists or activists will be feuding with someone and they're clearly trying to goad somebody into giving them their identity just so they can go and mess with their life and mess around with them. I mean, it's happened with all of the lunatic conspiracy theorists around Charlie. They want to probe into everyone's personal life. I've seen them do this to random people pushing back against them online. You have to have the ability to be anonymous because it is one of the fundamental tools that an ordinary person has to resist those who want to act tyrannically against them. Sometimes that's government. Sometimes that's just organizations and companies. Sometimes it's just people who have more social power than you.
But are we really saying that the government doesn't already have a list of people with their handles and they can't find out? They can't find.
They have a lot, but it's a pain in the butt for them. And there's weird bureaucratic obstacles that if you tear them down, will make it a lot easier for them
for sure
to weaponize.
But look at Prism. Look at Prism. Prism was a thing and was taking all of our data for years before it ever got whistleblown. So saying that the government doesn't already...
I will say, though, it's like, this is where I get really torn up on the Palantir debate, because they're trying to build databases and get the different agencies to talk to each other so that the government is, knows, like, for example, the Social Security Administration knows what the welfare and Medicaid know, et cetera, et cetera. I support that because I want to get rid of illegals off the rolls. I want to get them off I want to detect fraud. But yeah, there is a point where you're kind of like, I do want to be able to be left alone and not surveilled all the time if I want to be, and there needs to be a line.
So, I mean, I guess I'm arguing this from a pragmatic perspective, whereas obviously I want to protect internet anonymity online as much as possible. Having been a guy who had Palantir access and not Prism access, but access to other things, it's like the user in the intelligence community doesn't have the ability to just like look up anything like that. Like there are still, as Blake says, there are all these like hoops you have to jump through. There are bureaucratic protections, et cetera. You can't just like blanket go after people the way that you could potentially if you were like, say, a bad actor at Apple or Google. And we certainly know that there are lots of bad actors at Google, probably Apple as well. And certainly if you look at their founder's ex and the way that she spends her money, the widow, and when you don't want to make it easy for these companies to be able to do that, number one. But number two, to Andrew's point, that this is where libertarianism fails, and I think we've talked about this a number of times, is that they keep saying like, oh, we shouldn't give the government this power, we shouldn't give the government this power, and then along comes someone who just gives the government that power, and then suddenly they have it, and now you're stuck in a corner arguing that they shouldn't have it, but they're never going to give up said power. So the only actual viable option left to you is to take over the government because you have to control the sword, right? You must, it's going back to He-Man, right? You have to be the one who picks up the sword and says, this is mine now, and then you must defend it. Because just because power can be wielded in an abusive way doesn't mean that you should just like sit in the corner and argue like, oh, well, we shouldn't do anything that's going to give ourselves power, because eventually they will find a way to get power and come after you. And we've certainly all experienced that. We've all seen that throughout the Biden era, no question, Merrick Garland. And it is where you just need to fight back. You just need to be able to fight back.
Well, isn't this law though, Jack? Isn't this law like if you're trying to look at porn or something like that, you have to put in like an ID? Isn't that part of this law?
That's the state
put in
law.
your ID.
I think that's the state law.
That's currently where the state laws are right now.
That
yes.
I know.
Yeah, this is a law that says if you, I guess, want to download apps, you have to put in government ID.
See, that's very uncomfortable for me.
I think there's eccentric ways to go about this that would make it better too. So, for example, one of the ideas I've liked for adult websites, for pornographic ones, is you'd have the requirement that you have to pay for it, even if it's 10 cents. You have to actually go and input a credit card into it. You know, maybe you go and get one of those prepaid ones if you want to get around it. But I think a lot of people will finally be attacked with shame when they're realizing I am paying for this dirty product. And two, it's a hurdle that's annoying to get over. Well, so you're increasing the commitment needed to get it.
And that's essentially what the states are relying on by having you put in your government ID. Because you have to essentially take a picture of your ID. Again, so it is that.
Yeah. Listen, I'm all for good ideas to like reduce porn consumption, especially amongst young people. But like when you're getting into the point where you have to put an ID in, there's just something about that feels, again, like counter should have as Americans. I think there should be massive tools to fight back against this stuff, but like having to put your ID in to download an app, I don't know. Like that feels like there's against the spirit of the internet.
Well, one of the arguments, and I was just pulling up some stuff about it, was they were pointing out that one of the reasons that Meta may be for this so much is that this actually, to your point earlier, takes the liability away from Meta and takes the liability away in the way that the state laws are actually much stricter. So the state laws are stricter, but obviously a state law couldn't countermand a national law. So that's why Meta and probably a bunch of the other, tech companies are sitting there saying, hey, the way that we can beat these state laws is by passing this national law, which is actually just going to be like a thin veneer of regulation that, isn't going to really prevent anyone from seeing this kind of stuff.
Legal immunity.
But it gets the liability off our back.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, tech-savvy kids are going to find a way around that, by the way. And the other thing that comes to mind is, like, where are they going to go to get this stuff if they're not going, on the normal internet? Are they going to, like, 4chan chats? Are they going to Reddit chats? Or, like, where are they going to go? Some sort of dark web corners where maybe they're, I don't know. There's just like 1,000 bad things that can happen if you start doing this. But again, I support it in spirit, but I just think, like so many other things that conservatives end up doing from a legislative standpoint, the law of unintended consequences, and they're betraying certain principles that we shouldn't betray. I don't know.
Here.
Whatever Blake thinks.
I mean, my big take, generally, it's, we think of ways to negotiate this, and my big take is basically that an almost fully anonymous internet had essentially zero downsides. Everything we've done to curtail that has been because of panic attacks people had. That was the internet bad in 2014? Because that's how long ago you have to go back to basically totally unfettered, super anonymous, super free internet. That's when Reddit still had subreddits were.
And why did they take it away? They took it away because
libs got
Trump
mad
won.
because they thought it was we can stop
they took
Trump,
it away because Trump won because of the anons in 2016 because of Gamergate and then sort of the online sphere in 2016 that it morphed into, that became the MAGA supporters, that eventually and it's like those people kept getting unmasked, and it's like, oh, it turns out that they were actually like people who were quite professional or quite intelligent that for whatever reason had been, pushed out of their companies or pushed out of the academy or whatever it was, that's why it became such a threat. And so we all praise Elon for returning us to some semblance of that and allowing that to happen again. Not that there aren't issues with X, one of which, by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I think it's a huge mistake that pornography is allowed on X. I continue to say that that's a huge mistake. I think that Elon should take steps to correct that. I don't think that it should be something that's allowed to be shared at all on X.
I think it's bad. Although I will note it was allowed on their back again during the super liberal free speech times as well. And I will say, bizarrely,
any internet site
for
is
how
gonna
much
have porn on it.
for how much smut is injected everywhere in life, I will say I never ever accidentally run into smut on X despite it being there.
I don't ever see it on X.
So they're pretty good at keeping
one of the
walled
big
off.
problems with X. No, I'll just say it. One of the big problems is if you're using the advanced search tools where you're searching like every tweet, that a lot of these pornographers then will target like trending topics or like city names that are trending, and then put that in the description of the tweet. So if you're using an advanced Twitter search tool, which I use all the time, that then those tweets will start coming up. So you won't see them typically on like your actual algorithm, but if you're using advanced search, or if you just typed in like you're searching for something, like boom, you're just hit with it, and you're like, what the heck is this?
I just on balance think that the the liberalized internet in the classical sense was basically a great thing, and it's only been downhill when it's been restricted in any way, and it's just annoyingly easy for the left to say this is for the kids, and they get the right on board with stuff that inevitably doesn't really protect kids much and does open the door to a bunch of other things. And even it's just, how often does this happen where they say, okay, we're worried about kids getting groomed on the internet? I know that's a reasonable fear to think about, but actually how often does that happen versus, let's say, the most mundane thing in the world? What would save more kids if we said we're going to have this strict internet control regime to stop groomers, or actually you're not allowed to raise a kid with your mom's boyfriend? He's not allowed to live in the same house as you. I bet that would stop a lot more child abuse than any of this.
Yeah, I just want to say it again. I would love if they just dealt with it at the internet service provider level. Like every house, like here's your Cox or here's your whatever internet service, and they just said, do you want to opt in for your children to ban these certain websites? Yeah, it's great.
That's still gonna take something from Congress, because no company is gonna actually do that.
There's already probably third party
culture we live
groups that have it.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have to be mandated.
Parental controls aren't like a new thing. Like parental controls exist for, like I have it for Roku, for example.
Exactly.
We have we're a Roku house, and I have it set up that like my kids can't.
It just means it would be easier.
Download and purchase
you get it at the source. You get it at the source, because like right now it's like if I want to put parental controls, I got to deal with like this streamer, this like laptop, whatever. Like we're not really at that phase yet, but it sort of makes you wonder, like it's like whack-a-mole right now, as opposed to just like, hey, you can opt into something simple. I think that would be a simpler solution. I think how decentralized it is and how different each platform is. You almost have to learn each new thing that your kid can get and get access to in order to do it. I think it's a huge problem, and I think most parents are confused. How do you
Andrew, it sounds like you need a tech guy.
But if I'm feeling like that, Russ, then like how many other
is offering
parents
his
his
I'm not offering my services. I'm already my parents' tech guy. I don't need to be someone else.
I'm just Russ, hey, whoa, this opportunity, man. Like pitch, shoot your shot, man.
This is. It shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard as a parent. That's all I'm saying. So.
All right. I want to make sure we've been going a while. We said we'd double back to this, and I think we need to double back to it. We've got to double back to the AC question. Should
real quick,
Europeans have rights, given that they have been granted freedom and they use it to deny themselves air conditioning, like absolute psychopaths?
No, we need to shut down European governments until we can understand what the hell is going on, because apparently in some countries they are actually, I think it was the UK, where they were shutting down. There's a massive heat wave going on in Europe. Temperatures are like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, because that's God's temperature system. We're not going to use anything else around here.
It's more granular.
It is more granular. And we are going to use it, which is based off of water, which is the source of all life. And as opposed to any other systems, that
they're all dying, Jack. They're all dying.
They're all dying because they're refusing to allow people to use air conditioning because they all believe in climate change. Blake, is this actually true?
Yes, it seems that the Europeans, who have largely abandoned Christianity and abandoned their great civilizing mission that uplifted the entire planet, they have now embraced the culture of decay, the culture of assisted suicide, and the culture of just overheating yourself to death.
Headed the way of the heathen.
I actually think this is actually a profoundly important thing, because the left itself is allowing the world to split into a political axis of pro-air conditioning and anti-air conditioning. And there are very few issues I think we can get a 90-10 advantage on. And I think we can get that on air conditioning should exist and is awesome, and we should put it in everything.
Now here, I got to ask a question. Jack, what do you keep your thermostat at?
Well,
Taylor
so as, as a guy who has a European wife, this is constantly an issue in my household because, of course, Tanya Tay is, not a super big fan of air conditioning to begin with. So we currently ride around like 71, 72.
Okay. Andrew.
So which represents a compromise, to be sure.
74.
Okay. Blake.
You answer first.
No. I'm asking the question.
This is going to make me sound truly demented. Most of the time when I am at home, if I'm not trying to go to sleep, I keep it at like 79.
Jiminy Christmas. Okay.
Wow.
We float between 73 and 75. I turn it on.
What's weird, what I will say is when my air conditioner is running in my apartment, it wherever I am, for whatever reason, I can feel it actively blowing on me, it seems. And it always makes it feel way too cold, such that even in, if I'm in a t-shirt, I keep a longer sleeve, kind of like a woolen thing that I had from when I lived in DC. And I just keep it on my computer, because sometimes if the AC starts running colder, late at night before I go to bed, I will just put that on because it is uncomfortably cold to be in a t-shirt. So I don't want that during the afternoon. I say, screw this. I'm just setting it to 79 so it's not running that often.
I would rather put a sweatshirt on than turn the heat up, turn the AC up any higher. Or especially with the winter here in Arizona, I'll open windows and just turn the AC off or the air off. But I would rather put a sweatshirt on, put a beanie on, put sweats on than I would turn that thing up.
So this is, I don't want to be a European here.
Russ, that was me when I was at Gitmo. So where we had these barracks that were basically corrugated steel, kind of like temporary barracks that people were living in. And so you're in Cuba, right? So in the middle of the summer, that's exactly what I did, man. I just cranked that AC as low as it would go, and I put all my sweats on, all my PT sweats. And then when I would go out to it's like a Saturday, so I'm not on duty or whatever, and I would go out to the DFAC to go get food, I would forget that it's hot outside, so I'd feel have all my sweats on, and then I'd take one step outside, and be oh no, I made a horrible decision. Run back in and change.
That's how it happens in Arizona. It'll be 110 outside. It's frigid cold. Then all of a sudden you walk outside, you're like, oh crap, never mind.
Yeah, this is why I feel like I've adapted to the desert here, which is, 79 is kind of warm, but it's also about 25 to 35 degrees cooler than it is outside. And I think that's what you need that element of distinction. But I'll be honest, I find it a little annoying when it's hyper AC'd. So if I go to a store and it's 115 degrees outside and then they're ACing it down to 61 degrees or something, it's annoying because, among other things, it means I have to wear long sleeves outside because I'm going to be going into the deep freeze anytime I go to a store. The contrast gets a little annoying.
I can't stand that about Arizona. Arizona, it's you're too hot outside and you're too cold inside because everybody runs the AC at 65 in Arizona. It's obscene. 74, that's comfortable. You don't have to wear sweatshirts and all this stuff inside. And then outside, you get well acclimated.
Hey, here's the thing about Arizona.
Is crazy. But at least we're not dying in mass
that's true.
Like they are in Europe.
That's true.
Well, before we close out, because I know we're getting to time, I've got to read this take from Sarah Salviander on X. It's so perfect. where she writes about the heat wave. She talks about in Europe. She talks about how in France apparently already 1,000 people, like 1,000 people, have died because of excess heat. And she writes, and yet they're still not allowing AC. And she writes, you can't squash the religious impulse. If you remove God, it will just manifest in other ways. In secular religion, there is an abundant guilt and atonement, but little love and forgiveness. The rituals of atonement are harsh, sometimes to the point of death. Mercy, you deserve no mercy. The earth will not take the punishment for your sins as Christ did. You will. You are the human sacrifice for the sins of humankind.
So that gets me thinking a funny thing, which would be we're used to in Christianity, we'll have Lenten fast. So Jack, we can't have meat on Fridays. Actually, I'm a fan of the total meat fast during Lent because that's what it traditionally was. We're used to fasting from certain foods or certain conduct. Would it actually be a sound religious fast to just fast from AC for a period of time?
Not in Arizona.
But what if we did anyway? So. I mean, the desert, the earliest Christian monks, they went and they lived in the desert. They were just chilling out there. John the Baptist, he went and lived in the desert.
That would be like, because where I'm at on the East Coast is like, it's cold during Lent. So would I have to
fast from heating?
Fast from heat.
I think that would be very traditional. That would be a very traditional way of
I would do it. I wouldn't do it for my kids, but I would do it.
I want to try this now. Turn off.
I
could turn off the AC in my apartment.
That's actually a really good fast.
This could be a fun experiment. This could be a fun experiment.
Yeah.
I turn off my AC in my apartment and I see if I die.
That is
on live stream. Oh, you have to live stream it, though.
You would have to live stream. I'm not sure I want to. I'm not sure I want to live stream.
The stream just ends because his whole house is just boiling.
Andrew would be like, "Hey, has anyone checked on Blake today? He didn't show up for work."
Honestly, the scariest thing I'm thinking of is how much horrifying bacterial growth would happen if it was if I was in a place that was 110 degrees and also reasonably humid.
Wait, well, you could still have circulation. No one's saying you can't have circulation.
Yeah, you can still have deodorant, Blake.
And deodorant, yes.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. On that note,
you got me thinking with bacteria. Yeah.
Deodorant fast.
Take us home, Jack.
That's actually a sacrifice for everyone around Blake.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be a heck of a
punishment.
A Lent
sacrifice.
You guys could just keep telling me about your dreams. You guys are all dreaming of this to happen. The AC-less full man Musk Blake unleashed on the world. Oh gosh, that sounds really weird to say.
About the sacrifice.
The sacrifice.
Oh, see, Jack's kids are on board with it now. They're
Jack. All right, Jack. What do you think about this? So, Mr. Blake, he's still here. He's half listening. Mr. Blake says, "What if we do for Lent next year?" Now, he's saying air conditioning because he lives in Arizona. It's very hot. But for us during Lent, it's cold. What if we did no heat in our house for all of Lent?
Do you want to try that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you think Mama would like that?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll work really well.
Yeah, that'll go.
All right, good. You can be the one to tell her.
We're gonna build our spiritual discipline. We're gonna get closer to God and the Holy Spirit. We're gonna sacrifice for spiritual discipline.
All right, Jack.
Fair enough.
Take us home, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, go out there and commit more thought crime.
Thought crime is death.